whenever Oscar nominations are announced, I feel like that's when everybody goes like digging into people's like pasts, like to find out what like problematic things they did. But some of it's not just that. Some of it is just like the movies themselves or whatever.
Yeah. Which it's surprising to me that at this point they haven't, like PR firms haven't figured out, hey, you're about to be on a lot of people's radar now. And it's kind of crazy that they haven't like combed their social media profiles to like get rid of all that stuff. Even if the PR person is like, hey, have you ever said anything like awful before online, do you think? And they're like, no, I would never say anything about insert group here. And then lo and behold, there's like pages of tweets of just like horrible shit.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with that drama. Is there other drama too, just based on like with what movies got nominated?
Well, mostly, I feel like most of it is around that movie, and there's some of like the like tweets resurfacing from the like main actress, and then a lot of it's just like the movie itself being very questionable.
I want to say we talked about that when when it was originally like sweeping for the Golden Globes, that it's like,
I think we mentioned it. Yeah,
the word woke gets used a lot and it's become basically meaningless, but this is like the Academy, like this is like the usage of that word, because it's like it's like the Academy, like it ticks all of the boxes of, it's like it's got a trans lead star, it's about Mexico, it's like and it's like all these, it's like trying
important things.
Yeah, important things. And then like you watch it and the groups of people that dislike it the most are the people that the movie is like trying to represent. But like white Hollywood is like, the Academy is just like, no, we're progressive, we're cool.
Yeah. Have you heard of
it?
I did, yeah.
Because like
it wasn't good.
Because I've only seen the clip of, I think it's like Zoe Saldana walking through like the hospital, the penis and like vagina like surgery room or whatever.
Yeah, that one's like, I almost feel like that one gets the focus because one, it's in English, so it's like it's easier to understand how bad the lyrics are, and it's about like the operation, so you got, you know, the like funny sex words in there and stuff. But I think like all the other songs are just as poorly written. They're just not about penises and vaginas. They're just about other things, but they're just as like basic and dumb, and that is, in my opinion, not the worst song in the movie. The worst one is the one that actually won the Golden Globe for best song.
I saw that in your review.
Well, if you saw my review, you saw it's just like it felt like a joke, like I was being like pranked, because that was like the one in the movie where I actually was like, I had like a visceral reaction to how much I hated it. It was
like
so
the rest
awful.
of the songs are like, you can tolerate it. It's not great, but you're like, okay,
they're
whatever.
Just like average, forgettable musical songs for the most part. Yeah, and that one was just like exceptionally terrible. Have you heard of Johann Sacre Bleu? Have you heard of this?
No.
It came out like last week or something like that, but it's a Mexican short film musical that's set in France, and it's about a trans woman.
I did see someone like, it's like a rebuttal, like a person who has no business speaking on these other cultures, making a movie about them. I forgot it was called Johann Sacre Bleu. Is he just like eating baguettes and like drinking red wine and just like,
kinda,
oh, mamma mia, spaghetti? Like,
so I mean, essentially, it's
a
trans woman she's like an heir to a baguette empire.
Okay.
And she falls in love with another trans woman who's also an heiress, whose name is like Arturo Ratatouille or something. And
the IMDb description is great. The real life of French people in a musical made by people in Mexico. It tells the epic tale of baguettes, croissants, stinky cheese, and the difficulties of not taking daily showers.
Nice. Oh, the other one. And so this is something that kind of reaches to another, probably the other biggest contender, because I feel like the two kind of front runners were like Emilia Perez and The Brutalist.
Yes.
Although I will say, I don't know how like early the Oscar voters get their votes locked in, but I could actually see this like hurting its chances. Surprisingly, I feel like a lot of like controversy stuff doesn't, but I feel like there's just so much with this movie that it might. So anyways, the other big one is The Brutalist, and they both use AI in the movies, which there's been, it's very minor, especially in the case of The Brutalist, as far as I understand, where they use like a language model AI because they speak like Polish or Hungarian, I think,
believe.
or something.
The article that I read said that it was essentially just like tweaking their voices to sound more authentically Hungarian, because they wanted it to like feel as accurate as humanly possible to like,
right.
I don't know if it's like a specific, I don't know if there's like multiple dialects of Hungarian. I'm assuming they're like localizations,
Apparently it's just like I guess just in general, it's just a kind of hard language to master from what they're saying. And then it's like at the end of the movie, you're seeing, because Adrian Brody's like, he's an architect or whatever. So at the end of it, you see like a bunch of his like blueprint, like drawings, like whatever you want to call those architectural like diagrams and whatnot. Yeah, and I guess those are, I guess those are also AI generated or like influenced by it or whatever.
I thought I saw an article.
It's just kind of like you walk by and it's like, what?
I thought I saw somewhere that someone from the movie clarified that it was only the voice and it wasn't the art, but that could be wrong.
Oh, okay. Could be an update. This is what I mean, like with how this is what feels a little different from normal, is like I feel like there's some like new information like every day with this, like with any of these. There's so much going on. My take on that is that like I would say that I'm like mostly okay with them using the AI just for that, but I think you should be excluded from like he's up for like best actor. I think you're excluded. I don't care like how little it is, because like I'm thinking of like, what about the other guys up for best actor who didn't?
Yeah,
it's not fair,
Yeah, that is a good point, because my main gripe with AI is that it's essentially the way that it learns is by essentially stealing shit, by combing the internet for like reference material and then using that and saying I made this for you. And it's like, no, it's something that has to like learn from other people's work, and those people that worked hard and actually did it aren't getting like credit at all. But with like the vocal like adjustments, I guess that feels less, because it's like if you're recording music and like you use like an auto tune, I'm sure it like uses algorithms to try and like determine what pitch your voice is supposed to go to. I don't know. I don't know the mechanics of how it works. I could be talking out my ass, but that seemed like a better like use case of AI as opposed to like we entirely conjured up like a background or an image or like I mean, what wasn't that like a thing with Civil War? Weren't like a lot of those posters AI generated?
Oh, I think I heard that. Yeah,
I think there was.
I mean, it crops up all over. You'll see like, oh yeah, they used AI for That was in Late Night with the Devil, I think. They did that.
Yeah, there were like some of those cue cards for whatever reason. Which is insane because like The Brutalist is like a 3.5 hour long movie. Like what at the finish line you couldn't like conjure up, you couldn't hire someone to like make blueprints. Again, I thought I saw an article. Man. I thought I saw an article that said that wasn't the case, but it very well could be.
Maybe.
And assuming it is the case, still, yeah, you couldn't find someone to do something quick. There's got to be so many artists that are like, yeah, no, I'll do that. I can do that. I can conjure up something that'll look cool.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the thing that I saw. If it was real, I was saying that like it was basically like it was a time thing. Like, oh, when it came down to it, it was like we couldn't do it on the day, so we just did it in post. And it's like, well, see, that's a perfect example of like why I think, like again with the voices, I think that it is kind of like a best or better case scenario of like how to use it in movies. I just think that if you use it, it should disqualify you from like awards, because I think that like. Performance is the whole package. A lot of people like put a lot of work into like learning an accent or learning a voice or learning a whatever, you know, and you're getting help with it. Even if it's just a little bit, you're getting help with it. You're getting help with like the hardest part. So it's like I think it's a little bit of a cheat code. And then like the thing with if they did use it to do the little images because they couldn't do it on the day, it's like, well, that's a sign of like bad directing or bad like production managing. If you didn't work it out on the day, then maybe that's just kind of a knock
you got to the editing booth and you're like, we didn't
dang it.
He's an architect. You forgot that part. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
So the 3 movies that have the most nominations are Emilia Perez, The Brutalist, and Wicked, which I
don't know if there's any controversies around Wicked. I just think it's dumb.
Wicked,
I guess there's the weird stuff with like their like press tour stuff, or how they're just like weird in the interviews.
They're very weird, yes. Yeah, that one seems like and maybe I said this during the Golden Globes discussion too, but it seems just like here you go. We'll give you nominations. You can put that like on your promotional material, nominated for 10 Academy Awards. We're not going to give you any of them. Maybe one for like,
I hope
music or costumes, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
it feels like every year for like Best Picture, there's usually 1 or 2 that are just kind of in there almost as like consolations, you know?
Yeah, or to get people to watch the Oscars because of like popular movie with famous people.
Like Barbie. I liked Barbie a lot more than Wicked, but like Barbie up for Best Picture, no one's like, come on.
Yeah. Or Avatar. You know,
yeah, I kind of feel that way about Dune Part 2 as well.
Yeah, maybe somewhat. Yeah, seeing as they didn't even give that one like Best Director or like some of the other like major ones, but
yeah.
Like I could see that getting visual effects or something like that, or
It does feel like it's going to be down to The Brutalist and Emilia Perez, like you said earlier. I guess those 2 seem to have the most buzz. I mean, The Substance came out like a while ago. It's not really in recent memory, I think, for a lot of people. I don't know. I mean, I love the Nora, so I'd be rooting for a Nora.
Yep. Still need to see that one. That one had a little bit of a controversy, but I don't even think that's like a big thing. It's not even.
What was the controversy with that one? Oh, the intimacy coordinator thing?
Yeah. Okay, so that was it. To me, that's a whatever. If it is, what they say that like everybody was okay with it, then everybody was okay with it. you know?
Yeah, and if it's for the scene that I think that they're referencing, I don't think there's a lot of people in that scene. anyway. So it's not like the full cast and crew are just like there watching. I could be wrong, but
well, apparently Sean Baker asked Mikey Madison and the rest of the crew signed off on it. That's what I mean. Like, as long as everybody there is okay with it, then I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still need to see that one. Yeah, Substance is definitely still my favorite of the. I think I've seen 5 now, so I think I've seen half of them.
Okay.
And that one I watched just to watch it. Like, I did not think that one was going to be up for like Oscars when I watched it. I just watched it because I wanted to watch it. All the other ones are like I've watched because they're Oscar movies or whatever.
Yeah.
And they've been like, yeah, it feels like an Oscar movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder if they'll give it to Demi Moore, because like her speech at the Golden Globes was like,
yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
and she's great. She's really good in it. Yeah, kind of grossed out by the Emilia Perez actress, Carla Sofia Gascon now. So I hope that she doesn't get it. Also, I didn't think she was good. I don't get what... There's people who are like, yeah, the movie's not that good, but like Zoe Saldana's really good in it. Like, you got to give it that. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't think anybody's good in that movie. I don't know what you guys are talking about. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think that she should, be on there regardless. But yeah, I really hope she doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to There Will Be Duds, ladies and gents. This is episode 172. I'm your co-host TJ, and with me as always,
I'm Nick.
And as always, we watched a movie. That movie this week being No Country for Old Men from 2007, directed by the Coen brothers.
Please, Christ.
It's about... Why? What movie did you watch?
Oh, I finished what was started decades ago.
What is that?
My parents pulled us out of The Cat in the Hat when it was in theaters.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I guess we can talk about that movie instead. Because I've seen it so many times. It's always on the mind. We watched The Cat in the Hat from 2003, directed by Bo Welch. It's based on the book by Dr. Seuss, so it's pretty silly, pretty not too much of a plot. It's just kind of a bunch of like wacky scenes stitched together, as is the case in a lot of his books. 2 kids are left at home with a babysitter while their mom's at work. They're told to keep the house clean and be good. And the Cat in the Hat shows up and he makes a mess of the place, and he does, wacky, read the book. Just read the book, it's a kid's book.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. And then, stuff happens. I don't know.
Yeah, some shit will happen.
Okay, why did your parents pull you out of it? Was it for any particular reason? Did somebody start crying when the things came out of the boxes?
I want you to guess. Knowing
Ooh. Was it like all the the almost swear words?
There's one in particular.
Like the part where he's like, here's my car, the SLOW, and then he's like, the other name was the SHIT or whatever.
It was Alec Baldwin specifically said them. He says it twice. Did he
say something? He says something.
He doesn't take the Lord's name in vain.
Oh, well, there's the fish says, "Oh my God."
That's good. No, Alec Baldwin yells Judas Priest like twice in the movie.
Right.
And that
your dad didn't like that?
No, I think my mom took us, but like for whatever reason that upset their religious sensibilities. I mean, wow. I think that they were put to the test already with like the pin up, like he opens up the photo frame of their mom and his hat gets a boner and it goes boing. Like I think that Yeah, their patience was tested with a lot of that, but I guess the referencing of like Judas Priest, I guess, was like a bridge too far. And so I never finished this movie. I always thought that we did, but I was having dinner with my family the other day, and I mentioned that we were watching this for the podcast, and Mindy, my sister, was like, "Oh yeah, like Mom pulled us out of that movie." And I was like, I had totally forgotten about that. But as soon as she said that, I had like that vague memory of like, oh yeah, I remember her being upset about that line in particular from Alec Baldwin.
Damn.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, I know. I know. Not being able to watch certain TV shows like The Simpsons because of that stuff, but I don't know if we ever actually got pulled out of a movie for something like that. Maybe my parents were just a bit more cautious. Like I didn't see this movie in theaters. I had seen it before, but like I don't not like remember.
But then again, like How the Grinch Stole Christmas, foundational in my family. Like we watched that movie. I feel like
there's some of those like slightly. Yeah, I feel like there's some of those slightly edgy jokes in that too, but maybe it's just the I know that there's a difference between like almost saying the S word in a kid's movie and kind of taking the Lord's name in vain in a kid's movie. That's like way worse.
Yeah. And I think with the Grinch, it's a little more subtle. Like there's an implied key party scene in the Grinch.
Key party?
Like a bunch of people, adults, go to a party and they put their keys in a bowl, and then whoever's keys you grab, that's who you go home with.
Oh, I've never heard of that before. I've never been to one before, so
it's it's like an adult swinger thing.
Okay,
and so during the scene in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, when he's like Baby Grinch, that whole sequence. It shows like a bunch of the Who's at their Christmas party, and as they're all walking in the door, they all like plunk their keys down in the bowl. And it's again, but it's not explicitly said like, "Oh, we're the Who's and we like a key party." So it's like it's much more subtle. This, like the Cat in the Hat, it kind of hits you in the face with a hammer with like the jokes that usually would go above the kids' heads. This movie. It's like they have these jokes that should go over the kids' heads, but they're intentionally trying to make it so the kids do get them.
Like like the aforementioned, like the spelling out the SLOW. Yeah, slow. And then basically spelling out shit.
Yeah, and it also like self-censors itself, like where he'll be like, when I think it's when he cuts his tail when he's doing the the demonstration, and he's like, "Son of a bloop," and it does like the technical difficulties screen, but it's like it's way more explicit than I guess the Grinch. Also, I mean, it's Jim Carrey versus Mike Myers, who I don't know, people hate both of these movies. But I will say, having rewatched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, there's a certain charm to that movie that I still like and still find funny. The Cat in the Hat feels, one, Mike Myers is insufferable in this movie. I hate him.
For the most part, yeah.
And this movie has like a much more like cynical meanness to it. Where at least with the Grinch, it has like a little bit of heart.
Well, it's a Christmas movie.
True.
And like, it's got the.
You could have done that with the Cat in the Hat, though, with Spencer Breslin's character, Conrad. He's like kind of a shithead. And it's like, I guess they kind of have a little bit of like a, like, hey, you know, you're not so bad kind of thing at the end. But basically throughout the entire movie, he sucks. I was watching it with Chloe, and she's like, yeah, send him to military school. I want that to happen to him.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I didn't watch. I've seen the Grinch, that version a couple times, so I'm not like as sort of nostalgic for it. So I have similar gripes with that. that I do with this, but I can see that it's like not nearly like as bad as something like this at the same time, even if it's still not my personal cup of tea. And I think that like you're right. I think that like neither of these are considered like classic, like all-timers or whatever. But I think that there's still a lot more people in like the Grinch like defense than there is for this. Like I don't think there's a huge fan base for this movie. But I'll say like I think they're both very ugly movies. That's one of my big gripes with the Grinch is I think it's incredibly ugly. Like I hate how the Who's look. I mean they do it in this like with the things, you know, like it looks fucking awful. Like it's terrible.
Uncanny.
Leave it in the
weird.
books.
Yeah.
And every time they like talk in this, it's so disgusting.
One of them voiced by Don Castellaneta.
Is that true?
I believe so. He was
oh wow.
But I mean, it's like they pitched up his voice to the point where like you can't tell that it's him.
Yeah,
but he's credited.
Just assumed it was, I just assumed it was just like
gibberish.
Maybe the directors did a cameo as that or something like like that. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, there's some shit that's like pretty disturbing. I'll say this. So immediately, like seeing it again, and like, I mean, I'd seen images, like in the years since, but like watching it again, I was instantly like, this feels like somebody trying to ape like Tim Burton's style or whatever. And it turns out that the director was a production designer for a lot of Tim Burton stuff, like Beetlejuice. I think like it looked like a lot of his stuff in like the 90s and 2000s. It looked like, surprisingly, did not do Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which I thought this was like the most similar to out of any Tim Burton movies. It reminded me the most of that. And again, I'll say this, like in this movie's defense, like it is kind of one of those like weird, like rainbow pukey, like everything is either green or purple and it just looks weird. It's not nearly as ugly as Son of the Mask and not nearly as ugly as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Those are like two of the ugliest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And like this was like somewhat kind of almost tolerable, you know, and then you see the things and it's like just another level of horrifying, but just like the general aesthetic was not as bad as some other stuff that I've seen.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, if those were like practical sets or if a lot of that was like CG. Because like that's one of the like we saw in theaters when it came out, and I have not seen that movie since. So I really don't remember a lot about it other than the fact that they like CGI cloned that one dude to be every single Oompa Loompa, and that was
Deep
weird.
Roy.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because the one thing that I was going to give this movie credit for was like the set design, because it is gross, rainbow pukey, ugly, but it's like you look at behind the scenes photos and it's like all of those sets are like real, even like the mother of all messes. If you look on IMDb, you can see like them standing like near one of those like pools of like the purple pink goop at the end. So it's like to their credit. And I mean, again, like looking up Bo Welch and seeing that like pretty much that's all he's done is production design. It makes sense. But I was also thinking, you know how there's those like directors that we have that are like, man, they only directed one movie and then it was such a flop that that, you know, it's what a life of movies that we were robbed, we were deprived of. This is the opposite of that. Where I'm glad that this killed his direct. Just go back to production design, dude. You're kind of good at it. Just stay there.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it's that's kind of what I mean. It's like it has some stuff going for it. It's not the worst. It's just also not like great to look at either. Where I feel like, yeah, maybe if this had been directed by Tim Burton, who would have known how to like set some, like block some of these scenes properly. I mean, maybe it would have looked a bit better. Although again, I keep referencing him, but I mean, like, he did do Charlie and the Chocolate Factory a couple years after this, which again I think looks way worse than this.
Yeah. I mean, get Ron Howard. I'm surprised they didn't have Ron Howard do this. He just did The Grinch, and I think at the time, I think The Grinch was a pretty successful like adaptation. Jim Carrey's pretty beloved. That's kind of like the peak. That's like, I would say like the mid 90s to like the early 2000s is kind of like peak Jim Carrey. And at least The Grinch didn't convince Dr. Seuss's widow to never allow another live adaptation of Dr. Seuss's work while she's still alive.
Yeah.
I was reading in the IMDb trivia that I guess a lot of the raunchy jokes that are in this are jokes that got cut from The Grinch. So it's like the jokes that Ron Howard thought were like no, we can't put this in this.
Did he have like a writing credit or something?
I think the trio,
I know it was produced by Brian Grazer, at least. I didn't see Ron Howard's name on it at all.
So the IMDb trivia says some of the adult jokes in this film are actually rejected jokes from How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The Seinfeld writing trio of Alec Berg, Jeff Schaefer, and David Mandel did extensive rewrites on The Grinch after the original writing team, Peter Seaman and Jeffrey Price, were having trouble coming up with a compelling backstory. Grinch director Ron Howard did not like some of the adult humor the trio wrote and cut it out of the script. Even though the Writers Guild of America denied the 3 on-screen credit, they were later hired to write this film. So... Weird. I guess this is like the Grinch leftovers.
That's kind of what it feels like. That's like a good like description of this movie. Yeah.
Also, apparently Mike Myers, he sounds awful to deal with on this.
Oh, really?
Apparently he was like a total diva about shit. Like,
that'd be interesting to see, like someone acting like that while dressed as that Cat in the
Hat. Again, this is all from the trivia section, but it says, according to the cast and crew, working with Mike Myers on this film was horrible, nightmarish. Actors would wait for hours for Myers to come out of makeup. He only spoke to his handlers and director Bo Welch during downtime on the set. And he had his handlers dress his trailer, and his area was all covered with tenting because he didn't want anybody seeing him. Also, it says he has a male assistant whose sole job was to feed him chocolates from a Tupperware container.
What the fuck?
And
the cat treats. Is that what they're simulating?
Do you think at the end he's like,
yeah.
But yeah, apparently, like, because this was Bo Welch's first movie as a director, he was not super confident in a lot of it, and so Mike Myers would like, no, we're doing that again. Like, let's do that again. We didn't get it. So it was an instance of him being like, no, we have to do this. And Bo being like, okay, well, you were in Austin Powers and Shrek, so you tell me, man. You tell me whatever you need to do, and we'll do it.
Do greatest films of all time.
Imagine having such an ego that you were in Austin Powers that you're like, yeah, I'm going to have a guy walk around and feed me chocolates. I'm like King Dick because I was in Austin Powers.
He was, I mean, you were speaking about like Jim Carrey, but for real, this probably was also the height of Mike Myers' like power too. Because like, Austin Powers was huge. Shrek was huge. I mean, Shrek still is basically, you know,
Shrek is great.
Like legendary.
Yeah.
And this is probably at least after each of those had at least their one sequels. So like it was like into both of those franchises a little bit. But yeah, I feel like, was that the thing? I'd have to check, but I almost want to say that was the case with Son of the Mask too. or maybe it was something else. It was, but like where, I'll see who directed that one. But it was like that, or it could be that one. Okay, he had done one movie before, but I thought it was that or something else where like it was a similar case of like the director not being very experienced and no, not so, I'm thinking of The Island of Dr. Moreau, because it was Richard Stanley. That was like his first movie, and he was kind of Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando kind of just like ran the show or whatever.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
Yes.
Which seems to just like never, there's a reason that like the director's the director, whether or not they've done it before, it's like, I feel like other people just kind of sticking their fingers in the pie just messes it up,
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mike Myers' performance was yes, mostly insufferable. He kept doing, he had like two ticks that I know. I mean, he had like a lot of ticks, but two in particular that oh yeah. And then he stopped doing it after a little while, but I felt like it was after every fucking line for the first like 10, 15 minutes he was on screen. He'd say something and then he'd go, I can't really do it, but
he's doing the Cowardly Lion from like Wizard of Oz. I guess that was one of his inspirations, but he'd do like the like that kind of
the like Weasley thing, and it was those were particularly insufferable. And then just I don't know, it was just like bad choice after bad choice. And yet there were moments that I was for how just kind of like bad cliche whatever kids movie this was, I was surprised how many moments like kind of made me laugh. Like I didn't completely hate this movie as much as I thought I was going to, except for the things I hated everything about them. They were truly horrific.
Yes.
But there were just some like, I don't know, there's like, I don't even know if they're like intended as jokes, partly because a lot of the jokes are very obvious that they're trying to be like jokey.
Yeah.
But there were just like moments where they're like sitting in the audience chairs watching the like cooking show thing. And they're like watching it and they're all like, yeah, we're, this is fun. This is funny. We're enjoying this. And then it cuts back to them like partway through it. And the cat just looks so like uninterested or whatever. I don't know. There's just some like exchange that he makes with the kids. And he's just like, oh, whatever. Like, and I don't know if it was like supposed to be funny. And then I was laughing pretty hard at like the stiff as a board Mrs. Kwan just like floating around everywhere like in the water, just getting like tossed around. Like I could imagine some like like static like figure in like an N64 game getting like battered around like
Mrs. Kwan with like Half-Life 2 valve physics.
Just, exactly. Yeah.
Like carrying her around with like the gravity gun thing,
Yeah. And then after they like fix the house, and I don't know, it was just like the noise. It was like a cacophony of like sound effects and Alec Baldwin screaming as he's getting pushed out of the pipe. And it's just like you hear like, and then like he sounds like he's in such pain.
See, you talking about it, I think is funnier than the actual movie itself. Like you describing it, I'm like, that is pretty funny.
and then he comes in at the end and he's all like all like covered in that purple
time he
cum, and he's like he's like trying to make a point and like his hands are sticking together and stuff. Like
it's a very Jack Donaghy role. I feel like that's like that's the type I kept
of like thinking of that too.
Like whenever he would like talk to one of the kids, like he'd kind of come in and he's like, I don't like you either. Like that's a very like Jack type of like voice that he's doing.
Yeah. And they're like, I kept thinking of you know, the like box that they have that things come out of, and they're like, I started like thinking of stuff like Hellraiser, and it like pulls them into their like hell dimension, like in the second one or whatever, and so the things are just Cenobites.
Oh shit!
The Cat in the Hat is the priest, is Pinhead.
Oh, I feel like they could have done a visual gag with that. I don't know. Maybe that would have been a little too far. I mean, that would have been the perfect joke to go over the kids' heads.
Yeah,
if, like he had like the Pinhead like things, you know.
Maybe, yeah, and then he could go like, "Ooh, that hurts!"
Like he got stung by a porcupine or something,
yeah,
and then he's got like a face full of pins, and then Spencer Breslin goes, "And Jesus wept."
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I guess that would be more like, that would be more like Alec Baldwin, where instead of him being covered in that purple jizz, he just gets skinned as he comes out of the pipe.
Yeah,
that's why he's screaming.
Beans could have been a Cenobite. That's what that kid looks like.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Oh shit! Alec Baldwin even does. Probably because that was on the brain, but I don't remember what he says. But it's when he's alone at the house with the kids, and he like leans in. He's like, "Well, guess what? This is what's gonna blah blah blah. You're gonna go to military school." And then he like leans in and he goes,
"Oh,
like the Chatterer."
Yeah.
And then just the way that like it actually felt very like Lovecraftian, the way that like the box was like seeping like their world into our world, and like distorting and warping their house into this like other cosmic, distorted version. Yeah, exactly, very like cosmic horror type shit, which would be a very fun take. This feels like such an easy one to. I remember like early YouTube, something that I always loved to watch was like they'd like re-edit. It'd be like a re-edit of like Mary Poppins, but as a horror movie, or like Silence of the Lambs as a Scary Mary.
Yeah.
Or like I think like Silence of the Lambs is like a romantic comedy or something like that.
Yeah, or like The Shining. I think they've done The Shining as a romantic comedy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like this is such an easy one to turn into like a horror movie.
Oh, 100%.
Like there's the shot where they're like under the bed, and where he like first comes up, and they keep like screaming and running away from him, and he's like under the bed with them, and he goes, "Scream and run," and then they get out and they crawl out, and they're like, the shot's like behind them, and they're backing up away from the bed, and you see the cat's feet under the bed, and then the camera spins around to their front, and he's standing behind them. That's like that's classic like horror movie monster stuff right there. And then just again, like everything with like the things, like just how they move around, how they talk, how their like heads move and stuff.
Oh yeah,
that was awful. They are, as much as I can like kind of soft defend a lot of stuff, or just I don't know, just like a lot of this stuff wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be, just on like the reputation that this movie has. There's nothing that you can say good about the things. They're just terrible.
Yeah, luckily they're not in it nearly as much as they could have been.
Yeah, true.
Which is probably still too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were a few weird cameos. The Paris Hilton cameo felt very strange.
That was
and also like incredibly like I'm no prude, but like Paris Hilton is dressed like incredibly suggestively.
Isn't she like
it almost looks like she has like underboob.
Oh.
And it's like I don't know. It's probably just because like, oh, haha, I recognize her from The Simple Life, because I think that would have been like on TV at the time. She was like
probably
yeah, or hey, One Night in Paris. I remember.
Oh yeah.
Then the other cameo is a crossover from How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
Clint Howard shows up very, very briefly, but he's in it.
Yep.
He's this guy that he shows up in a lot of movies that we watch, apparently.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah. He showed up in Terrifier 3. He was in one scene from that movie, which was funny. Yeah, I feel like he's just one of those guys. Well, I mean, Dan Castellaneta, I guess, if he's one of the things, it's kind of a more deep cut cameo. I think that's basically it. There's not like a whole lot of people in this. It's like the kids, the mom, Alec Baldwin, Mrs. Kwan, and then Mr. Humberfloop or whatever. Who?
Yeah.
I'll give him this. It like if he runs like a hand sanitizer thing or whatever. I mean, he's a clean freak, so at least you know that his product's good if he's like using it, you know. And
yeah.
He's very like, yeah, like a neat freak or whatever. So that's good. Good on them, I guess. But then also it's a real estate agency or something, or I don't know.
Yeah,
kind of confused. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just like remembering the whole thing with like, was the whole plot with the mom that like she was doing a house party for like her work friends, and
yes,
if the house was messy, she was gonna get fired. That was
because he's a neat freak. Because there's like a part where he says to her like, he's like, if your house is dirty like it was last time, and then he does the "you're fired."
Yeah, I didn't like that. That was annoying.
Yes, it was.
The way that his mouth like curled when he said it was that was an ick. For
yes.
me.
Did he have like the Who makeup on, or was he like normal? I think it was
normal.
I think it was only the things that had
rosy
like
cheeks or something.
That's right. Yeah, the classic like Tim Burton like rosy cheeks, and like everything is like kind of curly and whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading on the trivia that I guess like for some of the downtown locations, I guess they actually painted some of the storefronts those colors. And after the movie wrapped, I guess some of the people liked it enough that they kept it that way. I don't know if it's still like that now, but apparently like after this movie was done, you could have gone downtown like in whatever city in California they filmed this, and some of those storefronts had the same paint scheme and colors as like they did in this movie. Which is
interesting.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
I assumed it was all soundstage, but I guess they're driving cars around, so
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I assumed it was all soundstage too. Yeah, weird. Shit. Speaking of, Mike Myers. Speaking of early 2000s. Speaking of Shrek. Do you know who did that cover of the Beatles song, the Getting Better that played at the end?
I only know because I saw it on who it is on Wikipedia.
Oh,
but that is perfect.
Yeah,
that is smash.
I didn't realize it when it was in the movie, but then they don't do that song, but there's a Smash Mouth song that plays over the end credits. And so I was like, oh, sweet. So then I was like, I looked up like the soundtrack or whatever, and then I saw that they also did the Beatles cover, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude. That was so like, man, it's crazy how much they popped up and stuff around that time. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Them and Bare Naked Ladies, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was something about like their sound, like, and like that era it was like kind of like optimistic. Like, I don't know, something about like the early 2000s Which I guess it's post 9/11, so maybe they needed a little bit of optimism or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's just like some quality to their music that's just like that jaunty style. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was also just All Star was just a fucking like mega huge song. And
That album's not bad. Astro Lounge, there's like some good shit on that.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I had that album. Yeah, no, I actually listened to it like last year or the year before, and I was like, you know what? It holds up pretty well. I think it's pretty good. Yeah. So, yeah, they're kind of like a band to like kind of poke fun at a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I like that's the only album that I really listened to of theirs, but yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, because it's like I'm sure that they had like other big hits, but they have like 7 or 8 albums, and I don't know if gun to my head I could name a single other song that's on any of the other albums.
I'm just thinking that I'm like, some of these songs, yeah, the one before Astro Lounge, Fushu Mang, had Walking on the Sun. That was
I know.
I didn't hear that one around.
Yeah. It seems like every one of their albums, they do at least one cover of like a popular like 60s or 70s song. Like
they do Can't Get Enough of You, Baby. Yeah, that was one.
Yes. And then I'm a Believer for Shrek.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, every album they do at least one cover that's like a classic.
Yeah, that's probably about it. I think other than those like random covers, I think Walking on the Sun is the only song from like a different album that I can name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird way to end the conversation, but
kind of petered out there a little bit.
Maybe we had to pivot to Smash Mouth to be like, let's talk about something that's like not as shitty.
Man, Mike Myers' career after this, there was another IMDb trivia that said that like after like other than like I guess voice actor work, because like obviously he's still doing like Shrek movies, but I think the next movie like live action that he did after this was The Love Guru.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were gonna say.
Which honestly I feel like that could be in the dud cup as well. I don't know if it has much like dud like qualities to it, but I remember seeing that in theaters as a kid, and even as like a kid, I'm like, this is not very good. This sucks ass, actually. And then it's like, I think it's like Inglourious Bastards, and then like voiceover work for everything else.
Yeah, no, I mean he was pretty big. He was one of the like bigger, if not like probably the biggest of the time. I mean, there had been like Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin and Chevy Chase, obviously, but I think like at the time he was probably like the biggest like SNL alumni or whatever.
Yeah, it was like him and Adam Sandler, I would say. Like
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler, David Spade, and like maybe Rob Schneider at the time. Those
Chris
guys
Rock,
like
too,
Chris Rock,
too. Yeah.
Dana Carvey.
I feel like like honestly, Shrek and Austin Powers alone, those were like both huge movies.
And then it's like The Cat in the Hat and The Love Guru just permanently stalled his career.
Yeah, for real.
Like all goodwill was just lost.
Yeah, no, for real. Oh, that's awesome! I love that on Letterboxd. He has a credit for a concert for hurricane relief, which I know because he's the one standing next to Kanye West when he does the George Bush doesn't care about black people, and he looks so uncomfortable.
That's right. He's like, all right, I'm doing voice acting from here on out. I'm not appearing on anything. Oh man, I forgot that that's him standing next to Kanye. That's so great.
Yeah, he still hasn't been in like a whole ton of stuff, like live action. That's not like documentary or that kind of stuff. He was in
Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody, I guess. I fucked if I remember anything about that movie though.
Yeah, it's gotta be like Inglourious Bastards, where it's essentially just like kind of a small bit part that people, because like I think Chloe and I watched Inglourious Bastards not too long ago, and I was like, that's Mike Myers, and she's like, what? Like he's pretty unrecognizable in that movie.
Yeah, that was yeah, I did forget about Love Guru, but I had that thought too, that where I was like, I don't know what else he was in, not counting Shrek. That was after this, so I like, it's interesting. Like I remember, I don't think this movie was like a huge success, but I guess I didn't realize that it just like tanked him so hard, but I guess it did. Not entirely undeserved. Because it does not feel like, despite me like thinking there was like funny bits here and there, his performance feels like very disingenuous. I don't know how to put it, but it just feels so like canned and obviously not good.
Yeah, it feels very forced. And again, I keep coming back to the Grinch and like how it just seems like Jim Carrey seems to understand that world a little bit better than Mike Myers, maybe.
100%. Yeah.
Where it's like he's leaning into, it's like you got to balance the like whimsicalness of the source material, but then like throw in those sort of like meta adult culture references that like like exist outside of like the Dr. Seuss world. And like whenever that happens in The Grinch, it's, I don't know, maybe it's because it's Jim Carrey, maybe he's, because I don't think Mike Myers ever really like did stand up. I don't know if that's like the world that he comes from. He seems much more grounded in like sketch comedy, like improv maybe. Like Jim Carrey is like a stand-up, and he has like those comic sensibilities and like how to add tags and different little quips, kind of like Robin Williams almost, where it's like
that's a good comparison. He
can like riff on a bunch of different topics, and he's like, okay, I can give you a bunch of different takes. Like, what if I do an aside and I do this? And with him, it feels more organic. But Mike Myers, it's like he picked two things that he just kind of did repeatedly and was like, all right, I'm gonna go, oh yeah, again. And then at one point near the end, I think the two kids do it too, and it's like the most like lame, like they're like, oh yeah. It's like stop trying to make oh yeah happen. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is wild because like he was on SNL. He had all those characters that he, there's Wayne, there was I can't think of what they were called, but like the Barbra Streisand impersonator ladies. They're not supposed to be Barbra Streisand, but it's adjacent to that. Or like the Chicago guys. I don't know. That like he did all those, and there's this almost feels like ripe for just have Mike Myers just bust out some of his or some versions of like his SNL characters or whatever. And yet they don't. Like he does like the like mechanic, like hillbilly one, and that one is so weird. I don't know what it was. That one in particular was just very weird to me. And then this like plastic ass hanging out.
Yeah, that was kind of a chuckle, but not for the reasons the movie wanted me to laugh. Like it was like a holy shit, this is weird kind of laugh. Yeah,
kind of. It was more just like I just kind of like scrunched my face at that.
Yeah.
This it was just making me uncomfortable in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it feels like it'd be a perfect vehicle for him to like just kind of here's my character acting reel, and yet it's like he'd never done any character acting before. When that's like, I mean, fucking Shrek, like that's a total made up character. Austin Powers, that's like a completely different persona. Like I don't know, it's just weird, which it just adds to the whole thing about it feeling like phoned in, the performance in general.
Yeah.
Where it's like I feel like honestly, if even with like, I don't think it would have made this movie amazing, but I think if you had a performance like a better performance akin to like Jim Carrey's Grinch, like anchoring this, I bet it wouldn't be nearly as bad, like in like the general like consciousness. But it's just like he's just not doing this movie or himself like any favors.
No.
At all.
That's a better ending than
yeah. We kind of brought
fading
it back.
out on Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I'm in the middle somewhere. I'll probably go Spudly Dud, so it's a dud. But because I don't know, like I said, like there were some bits that I was kind of like chuckling at, but I will say some of it I would say is like kind of, I don't know, it's just hard to parse what was like ironic and what was like, you know, spudliness and what wasn't.
Yeah.
But there was some of that in there, so I think it's close to the middle, but I feel like I gotta lean dud. I remember thinking, I don't know why this came to mind. Something about it must have reminded me. But I actually remember at the end of this, I was like, I would rather watch this again than Amelia Perez. That just like came to my mind. I was like, yeah, 100%. At least it's 80 minutes, you know?
Yeah,
that's
dude,
nice.
That's lean. This movie was lean.
Yeah. That's like the biggest blessing that this movie has to offer. So yeah, dud.
But
asterisk. got some spudly qualities.
I'm surprised this movie didn't have like a credits blooper reel. This seems like the type of movie.
Maybe it's because Mike Myers was so awful to work with. I don't know if he was really that bad.
Like as soon as the cameras weren't rolling, he was just like, "Get these kids out of my face."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a little bit less charitable. I'm gonna go with mostly dud for me.
Okay.
There were like a few moments, kind of like you talking about Miss Kwan being like whitewater rafted upon in the end is like, the image is, it's like funnier in my mind imagining it than I think like the process of actually watching it. But there were a few jokes that were kind of like, you know, exhale out the nose type jokes, or, you know, it's like, okay, a lot
of it was, like
you tried. I get what I get, like a joke, an attempt was made, you know, that kind of thing. But mostly like it didn't really hit at all. I guess Alec Baldwin's character was kind of funny, mostly because I like him playing skis balls like that. And then like light praise for the set design work, since like the director comes from that background. As Rainbow Puke garish as it was, it's kind of cool to see like Dr. Seuss-esque physical sets in real life. Like the things that I did like, all of the gadgets that he had, like the little gadget where he like takes the little like suction cup and puts it on their forehead, and he's like gauging like what kind of kid they are. Like all those things looked real and like mechanical, and like there was like a tactile, a tactileness to them. So I thought that was cool that they could have just like done a stupid digital effect or whatever. But so like the set design and the props were like kind of neat, but in terms of humor and like Mike Myers and all that shit, mostly dud, with I guess like a couple spuds in there.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like I don't begrudge anybody who says this is like the worst movie of all time.
Chloe hated this movie so much. My favorite Letterboxd review was from someone who said that watching this movie was like waking up during surgery.
Yeah, I saw that. That's like one of the top. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Also accurate. Yeah. All right. Well, I got a movie to talk about.
Okay.
Was that a Spindrift you were drinking?
No, it's a LaCroix.
Oh, okay. It looked a lot like it looked a lot like
What's
the
a
Spindrift that I like. It's another sparkling water. It's akin to a LaCroix sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
But the can looked kind of like the one that I get.
Ooh, might have to give some of these a try.
Yeah, they're good. Okay. Yeah. So I saw something. I saw Flight Risk, first movie of 2025. It's very January movie.
It's January 6th movie directed by Mel Gibson.
Yeah. Do you know like anything about the movie or any of that?
I don't. I mean, obviously, it takes place on an airplane. Really, the only image that I've seen is Mark Wahlberg's horrific bald head. It's unnatural. Yeah. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is weird. It's not a bald cap though. He shaved his head. But it does look a little weird. It's like you can tell that he has hair, and not because like, you know, he's like completely bald, but it's like the top of his head, like when he like raises his eyebrows and like, I mean, you can kind of see it. You know, you get the forehead wrinkles. It like stops at his hairline, like at where his hairline is, and it looks so weird. It looks so bizarre.
Do you think they like added a shitload of like makeup on there to like make it look like, because like the idea would be that like if he's truly bald, like there wouldn't be like hair follicles, like,
right?
Because like even if you shave your head, you can still kind of see them. Like I wonder if they like added makeup or like a little bit of a prosthetic to cover that up.
Yeah, maybe they may have. It's kind of they
yeah, but if it just stops right there, that's like freaky.
Yeah, it is weird. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really know much at all about this movie. I hadn't seen a trailer or anything, but Ethan wanted to go. He said he thought the trailer looked good, and I was like, oh, okay. And he, you know, we had it at the theater, and I was like, yeah, you know, if you want to see it, I'll go see it. You know, we can both see it for free. And it's like immediately apparent that it's not gonna be good. And I remember thinking like in the first scene, like, okay, this doesn't seem very good. But I was like, and I wanted to like start cracking jokes, but I was like, no, he wanted to see this. I want, you know, I'll just. But then afterwards, he hated it more than I did, I think. And it was really bad. I thought it was really bad, but he also said like right away, could tell like one. Speaking of AI, pretty sure the opening shot of this movie is an AI generated image. It's like an exterior of like a motel, and it just has that quality to it where it looks like it. Can't quite tell, but it kind of looks like it. And then like, so the signal, and just a good encapsulation of just like the level of writing. So the movie, Topher Grace is like on the run. He was like this money guy for some high up gangster, and he's like living in Alaska trying to, you know, he kind of quit the biz and he's running on the run from the law and stuff. So he's like living in this little cabin in Alaska, and then he eventually gets caught by like the FBI, and then they're trying to fly him back into wherever the main states to testify against the gangster. And Mark Wahlberg is like a hitman for the gangster, and that's like the whole point of the movie, is he was like secretly like on the plane to like kill the informant.
Okay.
But anyways, the opening scene is Topher Grace in this cabin, and you go inside the room, and he's like staring at he's cooking some ramen in the microwave, and he's staring at it, and then it kind of like shuts off, the microwave shuts off, and he like stands up, he's like, what? Come on. And then he like bang, 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 and then it starts back up, and he sits down and he goes, thank you. And then like that is like the script, the level of quality of the script. And then, yeah, but ultimately, like, it'd be great if that was like the whole movie, because that was like kind of funny. Like, that was like, it was like getting to like funny bad. But then, like, the most disappointing part is that the bulk of the movie is just, it's just more boring than that. Yeah. Where it's like, so they charter this little tiny like private plane to fly them down to like a popular city so that they can, you know, transfer him to wherever they're taking him, DC, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the gist is that Mark Wahlberg, hired by the gangster to take out the informant, so he like kills the actual pilot and he flies them. So then once they're up in the air, they kind of like, they realize that he's not who he says he is, and the jig is up. So then he's like, okay, now I'm gonna kill you guys. So they like get into a scuffle, but then they're able to subdue Mark Wahlberg, and they like handcuff him to like this thing that's like chain in the back of the airplane. And then like most of the movie is them in the plane just like trying to like, she doesn't know how to fly a plane, so she like radios like some air traffic guys and like, okay, we'll get you with somebody who can, she's talking with this guy who can, you know, kind of like instructing her how to fly. And then like a lot of time goes by. Mark Wahlberg's just back there kind of being like, oh, I'm gonna kill you once I get out of this. I'm crazy. I don't care if I die. I'm gonna kill you. And he's also like a lot of weird, like talking about like how he's gonna like rape them too or something. I don't know. It's really weird. He keeps calling Topher Grace a twink. And then he finally he tricks him, I guess. He breaks out of the handcuffs and he attacks him again. And then they fight for a minute. And then they subdue Mark Wahlberg again and they tie him up. And then they just proceed to try to land the plane. And then he breaks out again and they fight for a little bit. And then they subdue him. And it's just like they do that a couple times and there's no kind of like, you were kind of expecting more of like manipulation from Mark Wahlberg. Yeah. Or like, oh man, he's so intelligent that he's getting them to like let him out of the handcuffs, or I don't know. You'd think there would just be more variety of what's going on, but it's literally like he breaks out and they fight for a little bit, and then they tie him up, and then they try landing the plane, and kind of rinse and repeat. And then just some weird dialogue choices. And Topher Grace has like the worst like comic relief type lines.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
See, I'm just picturing like the scene from like The Happening where he's like, "Oh no, I'm not here to hurt you. We're not here to hurt you at all." You know, like that, like trying to be sympathetic, but it just sounds like he's about to murder them.
Yeah, there is a. I did think of The Happening because there was it wasn't from Mark Wahlberg. I think it was Topher Grace did a what? No, which is something Mark Wahlberg does.
Yeah. I was gonna say at the beginning when they're helping him piss, they like unzip his pants and it's like the Boogie Nights prosthetics. He's just got like the huge dick.
Huge dick. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Mark Wahlberg, yeah.
It's weird that this is like a Mel Gibson movie. Like this seems like some dipshit at Blumhouse made it. This is like a Blumhouse premise movie. Yeah, and it's weird that like I don't know. Mel Gibson is like one of those guys that's, you know, he was on top of the world for a while, and then went kind of nuts and got kind of blackballed from Hollywood. I don't know if blackballed is the right word, but like he's a very outspoken like Hollywood conservative, which like there's not a ton of those guys, and I feel like after, wasn't it like some anti-Semitic like tirade he went on, like he left a voicemail on someone's phone, or there's like audio from saying a bunch of
Yeah, right around the time of
Yeah.
Passion of the Christ too, which is
So he kind of disappeared. And then, you know, looking at his filmography, like Hacksaw Ridge, he comes back, and I've heard that movie's like
good. It's
decent.
like, you know, yeah. I think I was up for some Oscars and stuff. So yeah, it was well received.
It's just weird that, like, you know, like the blackballed conservative Hollywood guy is like, all right, like, Trump's elected, I'm on Joe Rogan's podcast, like the pendulum is swinging back to the right.
Yeah,
I can come back to Hollywood. And it's like, this is the thing you come back with?
Yeah. Well, apparently this script was on the blacklist, which is like, it's like the Hollywood blacklist is like, it's the list of like most sought after unproduced screenplays. So it's like the blacklist is where you go for like what's supposed to be the cream of the crop for like unmade scripts. Like, what are they talking about? I
The ramen
like,
noodles. Thank you.
like his directing doesn't do much to help, but like the script is not good. So I don't know who fucking makes that list, because yeah, I can't see, like, he doesn't do a good job, but he is not the main problem in my opinion. Also, Topher Grace calls it fucking chicken noodle, and that bothered the hell out of me. He later, like, because the microwave dings after the FBI gets there, and they all like turn and like point their guns at it, and he's like, "Relax, it's chicken noodle." I'm like, it's not, it's ramen. You like it's like weird shit like that is what I mean. Where like it feels like an alien wrote it. Nobody calls ramen chicken noodle. It's not chicken noodle soup, you idiot.
Yeah, maybe
I get this
maybe,
chicken flavored ramen, but
yeah, maybe ramen is a little too exotic for Mel Gibson's taste.
Maybe, yeah.
He's like, that's American soup.
Yeah.
Interesting. That might be be one that I'll watch if it ever gets put online in a place where I watch online movies.
Yeah, that might be the place to watch it.
I could see our mutual courier of online movies being interested in putting that on there.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if
that's all I watched other than Oscar stuff.
Yeah, I saw a couple things. I saw Hundreds of Beavers. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I watched that a while ago. Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
It's good.
I don't know how you felt about it, but I thought it was. I really enjoyed the whole Buster Keaton of it all, of like that sort of slapstick.
Yeah.
Really, a really good example of like making the same joke repeatedly, but like it never gets old. Like it knows exactly when, like, how much time to take in between like making the same joke to where it's continually funny every time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty simple in nature, but yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah, like
it has been a while since I've seen it, so I forgot a lot of like details, but yeah.
Just like the idea of like people in beaver costumes, like mascot costumes, is like genius of like personifying the animals. And there's some really good visual bits too. Like there's the scene where like he meets I think it's like another fur trader guy, but he kind of has the sled with all the dogs. And there's like a scene where they're like making camp, and it was probably one of the biggest pops of like the crowd laughing, but the dogs were literally sitting around a table playing poker.
Yeah, that's right.
But then it's like every time they sleep, like a wolf comes and takes away one of the dogs. And then it's just like it's such a good like building on the bit where it's like they keep playing poker with less and less dogs, and then when there's only one dog left, he's playing solitaire on the table.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's like, other than like movies for this, that's like the only thing I've seen recently. And yeah, it was really good, and it's free on YouTube, so
Is it really? No?
Yeah, it's like it's available
cool.
on YouTube to watch for free.
Yeah. Yeah, that director has another one that's a very similar, like visual style. It's Lake Michigan Monster. That was his previous movie. That's how I found out about him. I think it was, I just saw it like on Amazon sometime, and I was like, Lake Michigan.
Yeah,
what?
yeah. I think they shot some of Hundreds of Beavers in Michigan, like in like northern, like UP, like.
That would make sense.
I think they shot it in Wisconsin and in Michigan. So.
Yeah, I think I heard that. That makes sense. Some of the exterior, all the tall trees and the snow and stuff. Yeah. Feels very UPE.
Oh, yeah.
Ready for another movie?
Yeah.
Then,
yeah.
I guess. All right. Back to the reg. So, for next week's episode, we have a movie from. Oh yeah, I was like, have we done one of this guy's movies before? We have. From 1988, directed by Martin Scorsese, The Last Temptation of Christ.
Hell yeah. I've been wanting to see that one for a while.
Yeah. Written by Paul Schrader, too. So.
Oh, yeah.
Another Michigan boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sick. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so be interested to see how that one holds up for me. So, if you don't want to be spoiled for The Last Temptation of Christ before the next episode, watch it before then. These episodes come out on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube in video form, if the video works, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I am your purple cum covered neighbor, TJ, and with me as always.
Oh man, as always, Judas Priest, man. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, stick it to your parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, turns out she was probably right for pulling us out of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I should have listened to her.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hate it.